Hello and welcome to Reach the Masses podcast, a show about two friends who talk about the pop culture that they love. I'm Travis.
And I'm Heather.
In today's episode, we will continue on where we left off, talking about Doctor Who. We will also continue to discuss the series American Gods, Episode 3. And then we will also, if there's time allowed, we will start a new segment of a game called Would You Rather. No sponsor in this one. Just thought it'd be something fun to do and discuss between us to kind of get more of a feel for our personalities. So starting off, we will discuss the show Doctor Who. Okay, so Doctor Who. What is Doctor Who? It is
the best show on Earth.
It is the best show on Earth. Heather is the one who introduced me to this show.
It only took, 2 years?
She practically begged me several times to please watch this show, because you were in the middle of the 10th Doctor's run, almost the 11th Doctor.
Yeah, right at the end of 10's run.
When I started to watch it, because I had to do a lot of binge watching to catch up, and thankfully it was on Netflix, and I could. But to kind of give a general description of what Doctor Who is, which is no small feat in doing so. Well, first, it's a show from the BBC. It is now over 50 years running. They did take a break right before the 90s.
Yeah.
They ran from 63 until right at 88, 89, I believe.
Yeah, and then they did a
TV movie.
Which was kind of an American TV movie, but it's still considered in canon.
Yes, they did bring it into the canon. That Doctor was considered part of the Doctors. Then we went and did a full reboot. Well, not a reboot, but they re-brought the series back. It wasn't a reboot, but they brought the series back. 2005. So what is Doctor Who? What in the Who?
Time travel?
It's
space travel?
It's based on a alien named the Doctor, who his race is called the Time Lords. Basically, they have time travel capability. He steals what is called a ship that can travel through time and space called the TARDIS.
Time and relative dimension in space.
And that's what TARDIS stands for. It is life, as the Doctor says in a later episode. He goes on, basically he steals this from his people, and then the show picks up after he has stolen it. The first season starts as he is a very old man, and he has his granddaughter and Susan, and then they pick up some travelers along the way, some school teachers.
From Coal Hill School.
And in the first couple seasons is that, and it was very popular in the BBC.
And it actually started out as a children's program.
And
teach children about science.
It still is kind of rated for children, even though some of the episodes are crazy, scary, and you wouldn't think that it would be for children, but it's still technically listed for children.
Yeah.
Then the actor, the first Doctor, as it were, was William Hartnell, yes. William Hartnell. He was getting up, and when he was ready to step down, they didn't want to just put another actor in and say that it was that same Doctor. So they came up with a very clever thing, which is why it's kept its longevity as much as it has. They've come up with the idea of regeneration, that the Doctor, this race of Time Lords, when they get injured or they could become too old, they regenerate. And once they regenerate, they become a whole new person with new personality. But they retain all the memories that they previously had. It's like a brand new lease on life. And that's how they brought in the second Doctor, and so on and so forth. We are currently on our 12th Doctor.
Technically the 13th.
I was going to get to that. Thank you. But as far as the doctors are concerned, he is the 12th.
Yes.
Now, there is considered in between the 8th and ninth doctor, there is considered a war doctor. And this is not considered a doctor. And I guess before we get started, I know I get into this and I do a lot of spoilers, and then I say, oh yeah, by the way, spoilers. So I need to work on that. So again, with all of our podcasts, everything that we discuss will be spoiler related. So if you don't want to be spoiled on Doctor Who, stop listening. Go on to American Gods if you've watched it. And if you've not watched American Gods yet, go on to the end where we just talk about random stuff. But hopefully you've already watched all this or are interested in it. There is a considered a war doctor. He's not a doctor in the sense of wanting to help people. He was there because there was a great war, a time war between the Doctor's race, the Time Lords, and another race called the Daleks, which is a
mutated race
that want to destroy everything and everyone that isn't a Dalek.
Yes, they don't want to rule anything. They just want to exterminate it.
Exterminate. Yes, that is their favorite word. So, basically, the Doctor he goes through history of the Earth. He goes back and forth in time through the future of the Earth, the history of the Earth, the past of the Earth, meeting famous people that you may know from history. He also goes to other planets and other races, and it's anything and everything that you can think of sci-fi. The whole universe is his playground in the sense.
The universe and time.
Everything and the way he grounds it is through what they term the coin companions. And that's, like I said, the first Doctor had the school teachers, and then as they go on, he gets new companions throughout each regeneration. They redo the companions, and that's kind of us, the audience, because that's how they figure out how to do certain things with explaining who's that, what's that, because every so often there's a new companion, and the Doctor has to go back and kind of explain, I'm a Time Lord, and this is why I'm a Time Lord, and this is why I do. This is the TARDIS, and this is what we do.
So in a lot of ways, you could basically pick up at any season and know what's going on because it's going to be explained. And
they've just recently done that because sometimes the companion will change with the Doctor. Like he'll keep a companion basically between Doctors. And right now on the 12th Doctor, he just lost a companion. And they've just started a new companion this season. So this would be actually a good jumping off point.
Absolutely.
If you just want to jump in where they're at right now, this season would be a good way to just start it. We have not watched all of the older episodes. We have watched every episode since the 2005 remake, or not remake, it's a soft reboot, I guess.
Yeah.
Would be the best way.
Kept all the history, but
they updated it. They updated it for a modern era, and they started with a new Doctor. So, with all that being said, it's a great show that's very witty and clever. The Doctor is this person who goes and saves people, but he doesn't just throw punches, or he's not this superhero type figure that goes above and beyond and has these amazing powers. He
doesn't carry a weapon.
He has what's called a sonic screwdriver, which is a screwdriver and it's sonic. And it can usually get him out of most jams.
Unless it's wood.
Doesn't work on wood. He uses his mind, basically, and he outthinks his opponents. He outwits them.
A good sidebar right here, though. He's called the Doctor. That's not necessarily his title. That's pretty well his name because no one, except for one character on the show, knows his name.
Well, the Time Lords do.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you see them like twice,
right?
Especially in the modern era, and they're kind of assholes. So,
well, yes, I guess that would be. We can lead into that. When the new series started in 2005, the Doctor is the last Time Lord that stays throughout most of the new seasons, that he is the last one. And then as the series progresses, you find out why he's the last Time Lord and what happened, especially in that first season with the 9th Doctor. It starts with the 9th Doctor in 2005.
Yes.
And as you progress, you learn more and more about why he's the last Time Lord. And that's actually, if we had to recommend, if you don't want to watch the older ones back in the 60s and on, a good point to jump on is 2005 because it's kind of refreshes everything. They don't even tell you a lot of the history. You kind of learn it as you go. There's a lot of characters and stuff that people who probably watched the old show were like huge Easter eggs, and then as the series goes on, you learn it as they do, and then you rewatch it and like, oh, that was that character, or that was a Dalek, and what all that means is fleshed out as the series progresses. But since 2005, there has been the 9th, 10th, 11th, and the 12th Doctor. And like we said before, there is a War Doctor. So I guess we could rank who's your favorite Doctor?
Well, everybody has their Doctor. And if you are already in the Doctor Who fandom, you know that you have your Doctor.
And it's typically the Doctor that you first watch.
Yeah.
For
me, that was 10.
No, that was the first Doctor you watched.
Yes.
You started with 10, and then you went back
10.
and watched 9. Now, see, I started with 9 because I finally gave in and said, fine, I will watch it on Netflix. And I started with 9, and I went through. But 10 is my favorite as well. But I started with 9. But I like the 10th Doctor, which was portrayed by David Tennant. He's my favorite Doctor.
Because he's the best Doctor.
Why is he the best Doctor? What makes him the best?
Because he's David Tennant.
Because he's David Tennant. He's the favorite because he's the favorite.
He does all the running.
He does all the running. He
has the coolest hair. He wears the coolest shoes.
What does the wardrobe consist of for the 10th Doctor?
A long, billowing brown coat, and depending on which season you are, either a pinstriped brown Italian-cut suit or a blue suit, which he typically wore red Converse with the blue suit. But with the Italian-cut brown suit, he wore white Chucks, which were David Tennant's own Chucks that he brought to set, that he has worn since God was a baby, I guess.
So that's why and he had some of the best lines, some of the best speeches. He was I guess to start off, the 9th Doctor was really recovering from
the Time War.
Though
you don't really know that at the time.
It's hinted at.
Yeah, you don't know the full impact of that until 2013?
The 50th anniversary is where they really dive into it.
Yeah, you don't know much about the Time War other than he lost everybody he's ever loved. Up until, from 2005 to 2013, you don't really know. That's all you know.
That he's lost everyone.
And that there are no more Time Lords, he's the last. But you don't know the full gravity of that until the 50th anniversary special.
I think the 10th Doctor became the most popular but he made it more global.
Yeah, that's whenever it really started to explode, was David Tennant's Doctor.
And I think most of the polls that are out about favorite Doctors, and they ask the people to vote, David Tennant is usually number 1. Probably the 4th Doctor is usually up there, because he's the one that I recognize because I used to play it on PBS.
Yeah.
As a kid, and he was the Doctor that had the long scarf. Yes. He was the 4th Doctor.
And the cool hat.
Tom Baker was the 4th Doctor, and he was the most recognizable of the Doctor Who's from the classic series. And then David Tennant is probably then the second favorite, or usually the favorite, depending on the poll and how long it's been. I think the last one I saw was David Tennant was still number 1. And then Baker was 2nd or 3rd, because then the 11th Doctor came and he became very popular as well. I mean, that's, the 11th Doctor kind of took the audience that the 10 had started to, and then kind of ran with it.
Yeah, he brought in a lot of the fangirls too, because he was a younger guy. He was 25, 26 when
he was the youngest Doctor.
Yeah.
The youngest actor to play the
Yeah.
Doctor. But David Tennant did as well. There's plenty of fangirls who were
absolutely
David Tennant because of the hair and
I've heard people talk, like random folks, and They're like, oh yeah, you don't have to watch any of the others. Just watch Matt Smith's. And it's like, no. You're not a fan of Doctor Who. You're just a fan of Matt Smith, which is fine. That's fine.
If you love Doctor Who just because of Matt Smith, more power to you. Enjoy those 3 seasons.
But there's more to it than that.
And the other thing that I love about Doctor Who is it builds on itself, and the drop of a hat, it's a new Doctor, and they just start over. And if you sit down and you think about all the plot holes and all the time,
it will drive you mad
because of what happens. Because the 9th Doctor and the 10th Doctor had the same showrunner, and the stories all fed together. And then when the showrunner left, they all kind of culminated into an ending that kind of tied up all the loose knots, and
yes,
it wasn't completely satisfying as far as if you really think about the plot holes. There's probably some that you can drive a truck through, but it ended it nicely.
I mean, it's a show about time travel. That's going to happen.
There's going to be time paradoxes, and yes, you saved the universe this time, but then you did it again 2 weeks later. So, how is that possible? How do you not run into yourself so many times? I mean, there's tons of those questions. I think if you just turn off your brain on that part and then think it's a very clever show and it's really well written, if you can turn off that part of it and just enjoy everything else, you will enjoy this show. And then the 11th Doctor comes, and that's what I mean. Like, 10th Doctor had all these wonderful adventures, and then the 11th Doctor comes, and it kind of starts from scratch because they have a new showrunner, Stephen Moffat, who was on the earlier seasons, he was a writer. He was a writer, and there's a lot of my favorite episodes from 9 and 10's runs
are Moffat's episodes.
Are his episodes, yes. And then he kind of takes it from and again, if you want to talk about plot holes,
he filled it full.
Yes, but some of the best lines, some of the best speeches the Doctor does is under Moffat. Under his writing and under the writers that he has. Now, he's getting ready to wrap up. This season is his last. There's going to be a new showrunner, and there's going to be a new Doctor. There's going to be the 13th Doctor.
Which is supposed to be an impossibility, considering that we have a War Doctor.
Right, but the backup, each Time Lord only has so many regenerations.
Yeah.
He can only regenerate.
David Tennant had 2.
He can only regenerate 12 times, so there should only be 13. And if you count the War Doctor and then 10s. However, what they did was, the way they got around that was on Matt Smith's final episode, there was a crack which in time where the Time Lords were from the 50th anniversary, the Time Lords and the Time War. What you find out in the 50th anniversary is the Doctor saves the Time Lords. He puts them in a side universe, and then Matt Smith's final episode is the Time Lords trying to come back, and then there's this big war to prevent that from happening because the Time Lords want to know if it's safe to come back. So they ask the question that they've aired from the beginning of time is Doctor Who. They wanted him to say his real name because then they would know it was him, and then they would know it was safe to come out. But what happens is the Doctor won't say it because he doesn't want to start the Time War again and have it all start over again with the Daleks and all of it. So he's refusing to say it. So it's a standoff between the Doctor and them and all of his enemies that he's ever faced.
Which Matt Smith does a few times in his episodes, in his run. He faces many of his enemies all at once.
Yes. Even in the first season? The Pandoricum?
The Pandorica opens.
The Pandorica opens. That's his first season.
Yeah.
Which is technically the 5th.
Mm-hmm. Depending on how you look at it, because David Tennant did all those movies.
Yeah, because we don't consider those movies. David Tennant did 3 full seasons, and then he did
3 movies? He did the Christmas special, the Easter special.
No, there's 4. The Waters of Mars, and then that planet one where he finds out. The
Waters of Mars, the one I always block out because it's so traumatic.
And that's the other thing, is that there are some villains and stuff that is very scary that will stay with you, and there are some themes and other characterizations and emotions that will resonate in you and that will stick with you throughout the life of the show.
Who is your favorite villain?
My favorite villain?
Yeah.
Well, I had a villain that was introduced with the new Who, the Weeping Angels.
Oh, okay.
And then I also put as the other one was the Master, which is also a Time Lord that is basically the opposite of the Doctor.
And he was like, they were childhood pals.
Right. We were talking about the 11th Doctor, though. Who did you have for your villain, though? Who did you...
My favorite villain, just because they're so damn scary, and you never know where they are. Well, kind of.
You do, but you
The
don't.
Bastion Errata.
Oh, okay. They were only in 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But they left a...
Lasting...
See, I thought you were going to say the Silence.
No.
Because you never know where they're at because they...
Yeah.
When, the Silence is some aliens that when you see them,
Once you look away...
you forget all about them. And so you can see them and interact and be scared, but as soon as you take your eyes off of them, you forgot all about them.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother, But back to your villain.
The Bastion Errata. They were in the Silence in the Library. And they eat meat. And you can't see them.
And apparently they're in every planet.
Yes.
And they live in the trees.
Well, they don't eat meat, right?
Yes, they do.
They eat meat, but that's how they got to the library, was because they were in the trees, and the library is full of books
with
because
paper.
It's a planet that is a library.
Right.
That's how they came to the planet.
Yes, they were transported in through the paper.
Yes.
And then there were
They can
so
clean
many.
a chicken leg in 0.5 seconds.
And that was the thing, was that they're in a single planet. There's not that many of them per se. And you never notice them because, like roadkill, and you think it's just decomposing or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff within the feed. But when you get to a whole planet full of them, then there's so many of them, then they become a threat.
Right.
And to this day, you can still quote things from a Whovian is what the fan base is called. If you do certain quotes, they will freak out like, hey, who turned off the lights?
Yeah.
That's one. And are you my mommy?
Yeah.
That... You would think, that's stupid. But no, if you've watched the episodes, you're petrified right now and saying, stop it.
Yes.
And don't blink.
And of course, Are You My Mummy, Who Turned Out the Lights, also introduced the wonderful Captain Jack Harkness and River Song, who are 2 separate characters.
Right. But Are You My Mommy didn't introduce River, did it? That
No.
episode?
No, but Silence in the Library did with the Bastion Errata.
Oh, okay, yes. That introduced River, yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other one, Are You My Mommy, introduced Captain Jack, yes. And I think we also wanted to make a list of companions, favorite companions, and we didn't include them.
No, but they are perfect in their own ways and important sometimes more than the companions for some reasons, for different reasons during the story arcs of the show.
So River is considered the Doctor's wife.
Yes, she's the only one who knows his name.
And they're married.
But their timelines.
That's what's
That's
sad.
the fun part.
Fun and okay. See, Doctor
Fun
Who
is in a very depressing and horrible way.
See, there's Doctor Who. I say sad, you say fun. Yeah, their timelines. They meet when the Doctor meets River is the day she dies. And then from then, each time they see each other, he knows her a little bit more, and she knows him a little less because it's going back in her time. And then at the end, it gets a little wonky because she sees him out of order, because right before she meets him in the library, she meets the 12th Doctor, and they're pretty much on
25 years.
They're pretty much on the same level at that point. I mean, he knows everything about her, she knows everything about him.
Yeah.
But then when the last time she meets him, though, is because she has that line, "I live for the days that I see him."
And she's in jail for a lot of the time, but she kind of runs.
If we sit here and try to
jail.
explain, if we try to do like we normally do and explain all the seasons and stuff, that's like 40 podcasts for the ninth, for just the ninth
for
Doctor.
just River Song.
For even just River Song. But she's very important to Doctor, his wife. She goes. There's some audiobooks where she interacts with the 8th Doctor.
A fun thing about her too is she is also the daughter of 2 of his companions who are married, or who over the course of their run get married.
From the 11th, she meets the,
and she knows them, but we don't know that she knows them. We find out later that she knows them.
Yes, there's
But she has to pretend that she doesn't know them.
Time travel.
It's fun.
Because there's this very weird meme, and if you watch the show, it's like they're on that beach, and it's like
and
your wife is watching your wife kill your husband while standing
while your mother-in-law is pregnant with your wife.
Yeah. It's very.
It may get a little confusing if we're talking.
If you're talking about the overall story, as you watch it, it makes more sense.
Absolutely. I mean, we're doing a very poor job at the moment.
So
but
yeah, we're
anybody trying to explain River Song is going to do a fairly poor job. Just because that's a hard thing, a hard story to nail down.
And she's a woman that will challenge the Doctor. She's really challenges him. And like I said, she meets the first time the Doctor, and I don't know how it works in the audiobook because I haven't read it, but she interacts with the Eighth Doctor. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the Eighth Doctor knows she's River or if, how that works. But as far as the show, TV show is considered, the 10th Doctor is the first one who meets River because, like we said, that's when she dies and then she interacts with the 11th Doctor the most.
Yes.
And then the 12th Doctor, she has one adventure with the 12th Doctor, which is hilarious. But there's so many repeat themes and jokes throughout the life of it to make you...
It references itself, which is kind of fantastic.
One of the biggest things is the TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside because on the outside it has a chameleon circuit. So what that means is that whenever it lands, whatever time period, it's supposed to blend in with the environment. However, it breaks when he goes to 1963 and it becomes a police phone box. And those were things that they had in Britain where if you needed to call the police because cell phones didn't exist and really even pay phones, it was a phone line directly to get the police in Britain.
There was no like 999 or 911.
Right.
So you could just call on the telephone box,
and
you could put if there was an offender, you could put the offender in the telephone box, in the police call box.
So it's not that big; it's just a little box. And what happens is that the chameleon circuit breaks. Quote: I'm doing air quotes. Sorry, in the podcast world, it does
quote unquote breaks.
It does break, but I don't think the Doctor will ever fix it because he likes the police box.
Yes.
And when you open it up, there's this huge ship inside of it, and it. It's almost endless in
it's massive.
The way it's portrayed, and that's what the running joke is that whenever there's a companion or someone new to the Doctor Who universe, and they go inside, there's a catch-22. It's like there's this huge room, and then they go out and they walk around, and it's bigger on the inside,
yes.
And that's what. And then they play around with that.
Yeah.
Even with different companions.
Sometimes it's smaller on the outside. Yeah. Or it looks like a kitchen.
And then that was one of the first ones where it looks like a kitchen, but she doesn't say it. The one we're referring to is the latest companion.
Bill.
She says it's so big, like a spaceship, and the Doctor wants her to say spaceship, and she says like a kitchen, and he's like what? And then when she finally does notice, when it finally dawns on her that it's a ship and it's bigger on the inside, she says it's bigger on the inside, and then the Doctor and this other companion, I guess we don't want to. He's a companion, Norval, or Nordal.
Let's find out.
Okay. Well, there's another companion with him that kind of knows the Doctor, and they do this congratulations, like, oh, she finally got there. Congratulations.
That was a great moment. I love that.
It got there longer than it took, or something to that effect. So, we were talking about the 11th Doctor at some point, but there are so many fun episodes. Just to kind of give you a few of mine while Heather is looking this up. There are The Doctor Dances is one of my favorite episodes with the 9th Doctor, and that's written by Stephen Moffat, and I think that's one of your favorite quotes from the 9th Doctor is at the end where I think you mentioned in the last podcast where everyone lives.
Everyone lives. Just this one time.
Some of my other favorite episodes and moments... the 10th Doctor, one of my favorite episodes, it's one of the first ones with him, is The Girl in the Fireplace. Very well written. There's humor, yes. And then there's just, it hits you in the gut at the end. The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit is one of my two favorite episodes.
Oh, yeah, I really love the Satan Pit. Like that whole speech Tennant does is really good.
At the end where he's talking to Satan, quote unquote, Satan.
Yeah.
that could be Satan. Then the one that really gets Heather that she watches. This is what got me. I was over at her house, and she just had it on, and I watched. No, actually, it was the other one, but this one was on too at one point. But what got me was Army of Ghosts and Doomsday.
Yes. Every time.
And that is actually the Ninth Doctor starts with Rose, the companion named Rose, and it bleeds over. When the Ninth Doctor only has one season, and then he regenerates into the 10th Doctor, and Rose stays with the 10th Doctor for a season, and then she leaves. But that's her send-off, is those 2 episodes, Army of Ghost and Doomsday. And Heather has got a really weird look on her face trying to look up how you say this
that
name.
really weird look will have to wait till we're not recording.
Okay, one of those
I'm sending
off the podcast.
I'm sending it
discussions.
to you at the moment. Right at this moment.
Okay. So, but that was Rose's send-off. And then it immediately starts with another companion that we find out will be companion later.
Did you mentioned that she was trapped in an alternate universe, right?
No. Rose is trapped in an alternate universe. Casually, she's trapped in an alternate. But it ends with a gut punch with her leaving the show. Very sad. That's where you really see the Doctor, him be very close. And I guess that's where the Doctor, a lot of people, the companion has never really been a romantic with the companion. It's just been someone that helps him. Rose was like really one of the first ones that had like a romantic will they, won't they kind of relationship.
He even says Rose Tyler, I.
And then he fades away because she does get trapped in an alternate universe. So there's no way to get her back, sort of. She comes back.
She comes back later.
She comes back later. But then they introduce a very short, they start doing a Christmas episode, and usually the Christmas episodes are usually a one-off that are really good. Mm-hmm. But they do the Runaway Bride, which introduces you to Donna Noble.
Donna Noble.
She comes back in the 3rd season as a regular companion, but they introduce you in the Runaway Bride. And then they introduce you to Martha Jones. And how do you say it?
Nardole.
Nardole. Okay.
I don't know. I speak American.
I speak American. America. We get introduced to the next companion, which is Martha, who's a doctor.
Where is she on your list of companions?
As far as companions go, I have Donna Noble, Rose, Amy and Rory, Clara, and then Martha. Martha is the last. And the only reason why, she has a lot of great moments in the show.
She was just around for one season, though.
She was here. She was one season companion, but so was Donna.
Yeah.
Donna Noble was one season, but
they were BFFs.
They were best
Martha
friends. And that's where I was getting at, was that where they had the will they, won't they from the Rose issue,
Rose Tyler,
the Rose Tyler Doctor. The 10th Doctor, Martha is in love with the Doctor, and it's kind of evident that she loves him and he doesn't love her, because he's actually almost like heartbroken over losing Rose. And they go on fun adventures, and there's a lot of great moments, but
and her
it gets bogged down.
Continues, yeah. Her character continues in spin-offs like Torchwood, and she comes back later in some episodes.
So, after Martha is when, like I said, we bring back Donna Noble, and kind of the 10th Doctor says it. He's like, after everything that's been going on, I just want a mate.
Yeah.
So him and Donna become best friends. And
like beer drinking, having fun adventures, best friends. Like they are genuinely best friends.
And Martha leaves the show, like you said. She does come back in later episodes, and then also later spin-off series. So she continues on. Mm-hmm. Rose is in another dimension. Donna Noble is really the first companion that has the heartbreak of a leave, because
her ending is the most tragic ending because of her character arc, her character growth, and then it all goes away.
And we'll leave it at that. I mean, we could, like I said, oh my gosh, if we talk about every companion, and then the 10th Doctor leaves, that's the end of the third season, and it wraps up nicely. The third season ends up like that's what I was saying. Like it wraps up nicely. There's some good conclusions to a lot of the story arcs that has happened between the 9th and 10th Doctor seasons, and then they do four movies. One-off movies, and David Tennant does all those, and then the last movie, the Easter special, it's the New Year's special.
Yeah.
They did a Christmas and New Year's. It aired on New Year's, 2-parter. It becomes the 11th Doctor, and then they kind of start all over again. And then some of my favorite episodes, going back to 10, I said Army Doctor's Runaway Bride. Then the one of the best episodes of Doctor Who that a lot of people say that doesn't have the Doctor that much, which is introduces the Weeping Angels, is called Blink.
Yes.
And that was actually with Martha as the companion. Introduces the Weeping Angels. And the Weeping Angels are these creatures who are quantum locked, which all that means is that while you're looking at them, they stay stone. But as soon as your eyes go off of them, you blink, anything, they can move, and they're trying to get to you, so you have to keep your eyes on them at all times. If they touch you, it's not that bad, and
they don't kill you.
They don't kill you. What they do is when they touch you, they send you back in time, and they feed off of that energy that it causes.
I think is worse, personally. Like, I don't want to be thrown back to like 1825. Like, that would be so shitty.
Well, and it doesn't. They don't give specifics of how far back they send you.
Right. It can be any.
It could be 100 years. It could be 30 years. It doesn't tell exactly.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the angel.
I guess
the Weeping Angel, like how much power they got, maybe.
They never explain it, and that's another thing. Sometimes they don't explain things, and you wish that they would. But
from that episode also comes the infamous Weebly Wobbly Timey Wimey,
which I texted you about this earlier.
Yes.
But that doesn't have a lot of David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. But usually people who say, show me a good Doctor Who episode, Blink's a good one. A good standalone episode.
Absolutely,
to get you into Doctor Who, which obviously, for some weird reason, doesn't even have the Doctor in it.
Yeah. He's on tape for most of it.
And then there's Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. And we mentioned that earlier from the 10th Doctor's run. That introduces River and her character and kind of establishes her. The 11th Doctor, some of my favorite episodes with him. Vincent and the Doctor is probably one of my favorite Doctor.
Another one that I cry at every time.
The 11th Doctor, Vincent and the Doctor, is about Van Gogh, and just it's a good episode. The 11th Doctor, I would say, 10th Doctor has better episodes. 11th Doctor has some of the best moments, best speeches,
better lines. Or not better lines, but some really.
He
good
has
lines.
more of them overall. And then the 12th Doctor, I think the way it works for me as far as with the 11th and 12th Doctor is the first season they're in, I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
The second season, I start really liking them, and then the third season, I've really enjoyed them.
And they go away.
And they go away. And that's what they've done with the 11th, and now the 12th Doctor. And the 12th Doctor I liked a lot when he came on the scene.
I was very excited to find out that it was Peter Capaldi.
But that first season, it's just where they're trying to get their footing with the new Doctor. They're trying to establish new things. There's a lot of give and take on that first season. And then the second season, it's kind of like the second season with that Doctor is almost like a second season of a show where they've established anything and they could just hit the ground running and go. And then after that, they hit their groove, and the third season is usually really good as well. Mm-hmm. So you get that feeling of that second season, like we talked about earlier, where the second season really hits with each Doctor, in a sense, unless they only have a one season, which they thought Capaldi might do just a one season, but he stuck out.
Yeah,
because
which is not easy to do, because being the Doctor, playing that character, requires a lot. It's not just you go in and you film the series. There's world travel, there's conventions, there's
I think
other things.
Even the filming, which I still don't know why it takes this long. I mean, it takes almost 8 or 9 months to film a season, so it's a lot of commitment on the actor just to film it, and then on top of it, all the appearances and interviews and conventions and
absolutely.
all that stuff on top of it, it's very demanding role. And even the acting itself is very physically demanding because there's a lot of running and excitement, and the Doctor is very adamant and animated
Yes.
to the 10th degree. Sometimes he's not. And I think that's why I liked about Matt Smith's character was that he was the youngest Doctor, and he was very energetic like the 10th Doctor, but he also played that old.
He could be old.
You
He could be an old
you could believe because the Doctor, you don't really know how old he really is. They're currently saying he's over 2,000 years old, but if you actually sit down and do the math of when the Doctor lies, I guess.
Yeah.
And so he probably doesn't even know how old he is, but he's claiming right now that he's 2,000 years old. But you would believe Matt Smith and David Tennant in some of those moments where he looks like he could play someone who's been around for ages and has seen
David
all
Tennant's
those
doctor
things.
his doctor was 900 and some years old.
And then Matt Smith's character takes over at the 900 mark and goes into 2000 with Capaldi. But see, the thing is that the TARDIS, you're jumping around, you don't know how old he really is. He goes back and forth through time, but not actually that much time has passed inside the TARDIS because he's jumping back and forth.
Right.
Time.
Well, and I mean, they're Time Lords. They have two hearts. They age differently.
Right. Because, I mean, even with Matt Smith's run, his doctor lives for over 1,000 years, just that one regeneration, because of all the things he does. And when he finally grows old, because he bumps it up from 900 all the way up to 2,000. So, I mean, he's lived over 1,000 years with just one regeneration.
Yeah.
Now, he can go through several regenerations if he gets hurt enough to where he could, at the point of dying, then he will regenerate to save himself.
Yeah.
And he can't control it.
And they age differently. They age a lot slower
I mean, yeah.
than we do.
Okay, so what we're saying is Doctor Who is an amazing, huge thing that we probably didn't do this half the justice that it deserves. Is it on Net? It's not
on Netflix now
anymore.
It's
They
only
took it off.
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. If you have an Amazon Prime account, please do you the justice of going and seeing it. Buy the DVDs, box sets. It'll be worth it.
Absolutely. And if you already watch it more. You want to.
We had asked on the previous podcast, give us some of your favorite moments. Please continue to do so. Give us some of your favorite moments that you've seen. There's several moments that stand out. Again, that we can't do justice of all the great moments that the Doctor does. We've named a few, and this is us speeding through it, and it just took this long. This was the Cliff Notes version, and the Cliff Notes of the Cliff Notes version, I guess would be the better way of saying it. And I hope that we gave it half the justice that it deserves because it's a show that you need to watch. Moving on, we will go on to continue our series. We took a break from Buffy. We may bring it back in the next episode, talk about season 3 of Buffy. We will continue on with American Gods, though, because that is a show that continues to get better almost with every episode. So American Gods.
3 episodes in, I'd say it gets better with every episode.
American Gods, episode 3.
What have you done?
Did you sell your head to Chernobog?
No. Give me my coin.
You want your lucky coin back, make your way to my wife's grave.
I want you to think snow. Dark sky, driving winds.
And how's this gonna help?
We're gonna rob a bank.
Head Full of Snow is what this episode was titled. And the reason for that is think snow.
Think snow.
You have to think snow.
Spoilers for this episode if you've not watched it.
Think snow is a big spoiler.
Think snow.
Shadow basically makes it snow by thinking snow.
Which that becomes a big question for Shadow is, did I do it or not? And then
is this real life? Or is this just fantasy?
we're going to get into Queen now.
Hey, it's always a good time for Queen. Whichever one.
Did he just kill a man?
Well, I mean, he did go to prison, but not for murder.
Okay.
No, this episode was so fantastic. It was over way too soon, in my opinion. I was
And
really
that's not a
into
bad
it.
criticism to have on an episode.
No, I was so involved, and things were happening, and then it was just over, and I didn't understand.
I've had that happen before when I've been watching an episode, and then all of a sudden I'm like, this is getting really good. And you look and you see the time, and you're like, it's going to end soon.
So
Dang
you-
it,
you
it's
try
going to
pull
end
back,
soon.
but you can't.
So start us off. How does give us the rundown of this
The
episode?
opening scene is an Egyptian woman in the Bronx in her kitchen.
Now, is she Egyptian?
She's Egyptian.
Because
Because she talks about how her household became a Muslim household,
okay,
but that's where the feather and everything comes in.
okay.
She,
I understand that the gods were Egyptian, but I thought she said that her family was Muslim, and
Well,
they told her some of the old stories.
they did, yeah.
And she
Egypt
kept it.
is a Muslim country now in
Right.
modern times, and the reason you know that this is a modern age is she talks about her son having a phone that's around there somewhere in her flat, but it's also a camera, so her son says.
Okay.
Which kind of puts you in where we are in time. So it's been at least when did camera phones come out? At least 2005-ish, I guess.
Yeah, we'll probably have someone come in there and say, it was in 2001, you idiot.
Right? But who cares? Shut up. So, not you.
Not me, shut up. The person who made that comment
person,
it was another year.
Anyway.
Yeah, shut up,
so
you.
it's one of my favorite kind of scenes.
Okay.
She's doing her thing. She's cooking. And she's standing on a stool, and you see her kind of not lose footing, but the stool kind of jiggles a little, which
Right.
makes me nervous because having fallen before, it's a little scary. She doesn't fall. She gets whatever she needs from the cabinet and continues cooking, but then there's a knock on the door. And it turns out that it's, I guess, death, if you want to
The
put it
Egyptian,
plainly.
the Egyptian
it's death.
version
Yeah.
god of death.
And turns out she had died, and she was actually laying in the kitchen floor.
And other shows and movies have done that.
Right, which
Trick.
it's my favorite kind of scene where it's very anti-Hitchcockian. You don't realize.
That you're dead until you look
Yeah.
over and there's your body,
Yes,
or someone points it out to you. Yeah.
which was fun, and it had one of my favorite lines from the entire episode, which was, he's consoling her and telling her that eventually, her family's going to be happy and they're going to have children, and they're going to name one of the children after her, and she's like, some bullshit middle name, and he's like, yes, a bullshit middle name.
What I liked about it was that. What I liked about that scene was where she's upset because they're going to find her like this, and she straightens her
Straightens her.
apron,
Yes.
and then she's like, she's okay with it, but then she's like, oh, it took me forever to make this, and she's like, well, you taste it because they won't, because they'll be so upset.
Yes.
And he tastes it, he's like, perfect, and he's like, my whole life and I finally reached perfection, and then I die. So that was kind of a fun scene, or it was a good. I liked that scene.
Yeah, it was a great scene, a great opening scene, and like she's not connected to Shadow or any of the other characters.
And that's what American Gods, the book and the show are doing together, is that the book has these little vignettes or little. It's almost like a short story inside of a novel,
Which Neil Gaiman is very good at doing.
and they go off of these little other gods and kind of give you. And they did that
And
on
it
the.
gives you like kind of it introduces another character.
It's
to
world
you.
building.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's world building.
But it's not tied to the main story of Shadow at this point.
Right. Getting back to Shadow, he finally meets the youngest sister.
From the last episode where he was playing checkers and he lost, and then there are three sisters and one of them was asleep, and then he goes up and meets her
Up on the roof.
on a what's it called?
The fire escape?
The fire escape. Thank you.
Yes.
He goes up on a fire escape and meets her. She's looking in a telescope, and then she gives him some.
She reveals who the sisters are and what their purpose was, and still kind of is, which also kind of cements Shadow even more into this kind of surreal and mythological world. Because he's still being introduced to this. And I know, as somebody who's read the book and listened to the book, it's hard for me to see it with a blind eye because I already know what's
Right.
going on. So watching it, it's like, oh, he's just discovering this. and I have to remember
Right.
that he doesn't know
And
what we know.
And she gives him something, the moon.
Yes.
She literally goes up and picks the moon out and hands it to him and becomes a coin. And she says, it's not as powerful as the coin that you had because you literally had the sun. And that was the coin that he flipped into the grave of his wife, which was the sun.
And it was also the leprechaun, Mad Sweeney's lucky coin.
Which we go back on him after. Is it after that?
It is after that, yeah.
We go back to Mad Sweeney, and he's back. It goes back to the crocodile bar,
Yeah.
and it comes out that is his lucky coin. So now everything is bad happening to
Around
him,
him.
which is a good humor in the good part of the humor in the episode is from Mad Sweeney and his adventures, and it's more adult, kind of funny because he gets picked up by he's a hitchhiker. Someone picks him up, and then that person dies
Horribly.
Horribly.
With a pipe through the face.
Kind of reminded me
Spoiler.
of Final Destination.
Oh, yeah.
With
like
the
I
logs.
I still refuse to drive behind vehicles with pipes or logs.
Oh,
to this day.
I was going to tell you though, where the thing that they were protecting that reminded me of a part in the Magicians, the book series, not the TV show. In the books, they can turn themselves into different creatures and stuff. Like if they wanted to be fox, they could turn into foxes. And they have the mind
if they're
of
ugly, can they make themselves pretty?
There's
mean,
they
that's
address
important.
they address that, and they can't.
Oh, well, shit.
Yeah, there's magic, but it comes with a price. Sorry to get off of American Gods, but there's a scene, but they become kind of like they adopt the brain and the behavior and the mannerisms of that animal. So it's not like I'm a talking dog now. It's like they become, like a dog kind of in the
If they
behaviors
look
of
like a dog, they are a
the
dog.
dog. Yes,
They look like
but
a dog and
there's a
bark like a
scene
dog.
where they're whales, they're humpback whales, and they're in the ocean and they're talking about and they never bring it back up again. But it was really cool. They're mentioning like their songs are keeping something at bay at the bottom of the ocean, like all the whales or humpback whales, like their songs is a kind of magic, and their songs are keeping something like at bay at the bottom of the ocean, and they never go into it anymore. But
That's
it's just
kinda beautiful.
It's really good, and then it's like, oh, we're killing all the whales, and that leads me back to a deep cut of Star Trek for The Voyage Home, where they save the humpback whales from an alien.
Or even Doctor Who with the space whale.
There's a space whale in Doctor Who. We come back to the original part.
Yes.
See, everything can be tied back to Doctor Who.
Especially if it's us.
But that was just a really good part in one of the books, which I think is the third book.
The third one.
The third
This is
book.
a series that I plan to read. I have it on my list.
It's just a 3-book series. It's in the third book, and it's really, I just love that scene, and it kind of almost reminded me of Cthulhu. Yes, how do you say it?
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu. It kind of reminded me of that. Like there's something slumbering underneath, and the whales are keeping it at bay with their songs. So, with all that being said, sorry, back to American Gods.
Right.
Went on a tangent.
Let's see.
Go ahead.
Oh, we have one of the most intimate sex scenes I have ever seen between two people of any gender.
So we go back to another vignette,
Yes.
or a short story of another god or deity of some sort.
He's a djinn.
And he doesn't grant wishes.
He does not grant wishes except for this particular taxi rider fella. Yeah. It's important to note that this show, much like humanity should be, does not discriminate when it comes to sexuality, gender, or color of skin. And the sex scene between these two men, one of whom has flaming eyes, like his eyes are literally flaming, is just...
Insert joke here for...
Yeah, if you want to be a little homophobic, then insert flaming homo joke. But absolutely, that sex scene, I was just glued to the screen and it becomes a cosmic love scene, which fascinated me. And I watched it twice, the cosmic part anyway, because I wasn't quite sure how they were going to do that, because
Which, I've read the book, and I didn't know how far they were going to take it, because
Right.
I know it's stars and they do stuff, but sometimes shows back away from that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and they could still have done it and not shown that much,
Yeah.
and you would have gotten the gist of it.
Right.
But they didn't. They really went for it,
Which
And-
is nice. It's nice to have equal footing and being given equal time.
And I mean, I knew it was coming because I read the books. And again, I was sitting there, are they going to push it that far or not? And I was like, oh, they did. So,
And
kudos.
it wasn't gratuitous. It was intimate, and I think that's what bothers some people. Some things that I've read and heard, they say that it was gratuitous, but I mean, the 2 previous episodes, you had a woman literally eating people with her vagina. So,
That's fine.
if that's okay, then why is this intimacy between 2 men not okay? I don't know. I can't see it from that point of view because I thought it was beautiful and intimate and magical. But that's just me.
Right. That's just you. I enjoyed the scene. I mean, as far as, not being, I guess, quote unquote, exposed to that kind of, I mean, the way
You've never slept with any guys.
well, I mean,
is
as far
what
as
I'm
seeing
hearing.
that in the screen
Right.
on a main TV show, a major TV show or movie or anything like that, you don't get that perspective. Usually the
No.
guys get, the heterosexual males usually get the woman on woman, and they're like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you never really get, as far as mainstay shows as popular as this is becoming,
Yes.
that type of intimacy between 2 males.
Exactly, yeah.
And, kudos to them.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they are keeping that true to the book and true to the story of what it is. So moving from that, they go back to Shadow.
They do. They're still in Chicago, him and Mr. Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to rob a bank.
They're going to do a con.
Yeah. Which Shadow is not happy about.
He thinks he's going to go back to jail.
He just got out of prison. He does not want to go back.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Wednesday, being who he is, knows how to run a con and knows how to play the long game.
All of that, and we left out the amazing scene between Mr. Wednesday and Cloris Leachman's character.
Oh, yes, which was
In the
wonderfully
rain.
intimate in
and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the rain, and that scene is hinting about things that are coming down the road, because she could see she does fortunes, and she's the one that tells it as it is. No, she's the one that lies the best.
Yes.
That's why she makes the most money, because but she sees his future, and she's like, "What are you doing?" He said, "That's just my future for today. Tomorrow it could be something else."
Yeah, with the tea leaves, yes.
it
And then
was
they
a-
go for a walk.
It was a very good scene. I wanted to bring that back up because that was a really.
It was. And Cloris Leachman, of course, is as usual magical.
So we're back in Chicago, and they're running a con. They're going to rob a bank.
But they don't, it's not a shoot 'em up bank robbery. It's
Right.
more of a, this ATM is out of order. Please leave your deposits with me.
Now, see, this is where we talked about the adaptation being better than the book. And see, all of this stuff happening, they go in more detail in the book.
Right.
Because, in the book, it's on the weekend because people are dropping off the receipts
the
from the
deposits.
clubs that
Yeah.
have been going all weekend and has a lot of money. So this is like on a Sunday.
And
Because
it's later at night, too, right? Or is it earlier in the
early
day?
morning.
Early morning.
Yeah, because it's like right after they close, and the people are going to the bank to deposit it after they've closed at like 2 or
Yeah,
3. So it's
okay,
like
right.
4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and people are putting in their deposit slips. But since it's broken,
Wednesday is taking the money.
he's dressed up like a security officer.
And he's having them sign this book and, going through some official rigmarole.
I guess we should go back though. It starts off with Wednesday telling Shadow,
to think
"Think
of
snow."
Yeah.
Huge snowflakes. Think of this cloud over here becoming darker and full of snow, and
Darker and fuller.
Fuller.
And,
so he does, and it kind of shows this spaced out
yeah,
look. And
Shadow kind of spaces out, and
then Wednesday says, "I think that's enough. We don't want to shut down the city." And
of
then-
which we're skipping over that really good scene where they're talking about Jesus in the. It's
Oh,
not a
yes.
Kinko's, but it's a copy shop.
copy shop. yes.
Copy shop. Their discussion about Jesus and all the different versions of Jesus also lends itself to, if not flat out tells you how
the
the gods
are.
came to be within this particular universe.
And then we talked about, you may have already talked about, or is it after the bank robbery where he talks about America doesn't know who it is?
That's after.
Okay.
That's after they.
So we'll keep going. So they're doing this, and Shadow is on a payphone, which when this came out in 2001, payphones still exist.
Yeah.
But now there's still a payphone
On the street corner in Chicago.
that he put on the security cards. And this is where the book goes in more detail, because Shadow is freaking out, and it says, here's this, that when the cops come, Wednesday gives them the card so that they can verify with the company that it's true. And he gives them this card, and it has a name, and it's like, what is A? I can't remember but the first one is an A initial, and it's like, it's Andy. It's whoever you want it to be. And while Shadow is waiting for the, as he's watching, he's coming up with this person, and he actually becomes, in some sense, that person.
Yes.
So when he answers the phone, because there's this huge story about, he comes up with this whole backstory almost, and he becomes that character. So when he's on the phone, it's like a different person.
And on the screen, that takes place in all of about 2 seconds.
Right. He's on the phone, he answers it kind of hesitantly, and then he just gets a wild
hits a
notion
stride. Yeah.
and to ad lib and go with it. But in the book, it's more of him kind of accepting and believing that he's this person, and he becomes that person for that minute so that it's more believable to the cop.
Which it leads to him questioning whether or not he is suffering from delusions. And in the show, it does as well.
After the robbery, because he picks up a lot of receipts, and that's how Wednesday gets his money. And in the book, and they didn't do it in the TV show, in the book, he doesn't take all of the money. He takes some of the money, and he mixes it around, and he takes less. And then what they do is they go to another bank branch, and then they do all the deposits for that. And he does that because he says it throws them off, because there is money in the bank, but it's not what they had. So it takes them longer to figure out what had happened, because it is showing a deposit. But he takes out the bigger bills and leaves some of them, and then that's how he pays Shadow his first week or two of his services as a bodyguard. And then they're driving, but in the show it doesn't. It kind of implies that he just keeps all of it.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you any of that. It doesn't give you any of those details.
Because I think what Wednesday does is he takes everyone, because there's people that are just depositing other money, and I don't think he takes theirs, or if he does, he just takes like 20 or 30 here. He usually I think he takes more of it from the clubs and businesses that are depositing big lump sums of money than he does from like the average person. Not to say that he's a saint in any regard.
He's just taking his tithes.
He's taking what he feels he deserves. And then that's where they're in the car, and they talk about
Mr. Wednesday makes the statement that this is the only country in the world that wonders what it is.
And he makes the statement that he's never been outside of America.
Yeah, which Shadow asks him if he'd ever left the country, and he says no. And this also gives you more hints as to
how things are set up in this world.
Exactly.
In this universe world. And then the big reveal at the end.
Yep, they go to a hotel, and you see Mad Sweeney at Laura's grave, which Shadow told him that's where he could find his coin.
Before they do the robbery of the bank, Mad Sweeney shows up, and he's limping. Don't know how he's limping. Maybe from the wreck, maybe even from something else.
Right.
And he has a confrontation with Shadow, and Shadow tells him the truth that he flipped it on the grave, and that's where it's where it is.
And so Mad Sweeney is digging up Laura's grave, and you see this hole in the top of her casket.
See, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he picks up the
I must have looked away.
He looks right through it, and that's when it's showing Shadow walking up to his room, and it's juxtaposed with Mad Sweeney digging, and then Mad Sweeney looks down, and the casket is empty, and Shadow opens the door, and it's Laura standing there, and she says, "Hello, puppy." And then the episode goes off, and I was like, no, it can't go off yet. I need more of this to happen right now. And it didn't.
So is that your favorite episode so far? Out of the three?
Out of the three, probably. It's the one I've enjoyed the most. There's been a lot of scenes in the other episodes, but this was
this one was the best as far as juggling because they did 2 short stories, vignettes, and they added quite a bit with the Shadow story. And
Yeah.
I mean, it
with the sisters and-
most of the stars, and when it's on HBO and stuff, they usually run around 50 to 55 minutes. But this one ran 59 minutes. It was right at an hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even pay any attention.
I did for that, because usually on prime time networks, they're like, what now, 41, 42 for an hour?
Roughly, yeah.
And then some of them are like 19 and 20 now
Mm-hmm.
for 30-minute shows, and you're getting like 10 minutes of advertisements. But usually the paid ones like Starz and HBO and even Netflix, they run it up closer to the actual
yeah.
an hour to half hour. They run it closer to that time frame, and this one actually ran over than what the normal one is, which is usually between 50 and 55 minutes.
And it
It's usually-
still wasn't long enough.
and 59 minutes, it was still like, I want more.
Yeah.
And now we have to wait till Sunday. The only thing that I wished American Gods was, I wish we could do everything like that and put it on Netflix. Because
Yes.
Netflix releases all of them at one
One-
time,
yeah.
and you could just binge watch it. Because if it had, we could still do this every week, reviewing it, but we would have already have watched it. We would,
Absolutely. Sorry, I can't come into work today because I have to binge watch this TV show.
if it was 13 episodes, there would have been 13 straight hours of watching American Gods.
Yes.
Because it would say, "Are you sure you want to continue?" Yes, I do. Are you still watching it?
Yes, I am.
Continue, please.
I will tell you when I'm finished.
And that's the only thing. I mean, as far as criticism goes, I wished we could binge watch it. So
Yes.
if you've not watched American Gods and you just listen to all that, you could binge watch the first 3 episodes, and I would envy you, because getting to this week only, and that was the same thing I had with Doctor Who. Once I got caught up,
Yeah.
it was so hard to wait every
wait.
week. And sometimes between seasons, it's a year. Like this last one, they waited almost a whole year, and they gave us a Christmas episode, and that was it. So sometimes you
Well,
have
and
to wait.
before you had other movies, you had like an Easter special and the Christmas special, and then you also had other kind of things they released throughout the year. So it didn't feel like you were waiting.
That long, yes. It was broke up enough, but sometimes it's still a long wait
Yeah.
for some, and especially if you've been watched like 5 seasons, and then you're back to once a week, and then after 10 weeks or 13 weeks, you have to wait a year.
It's terrible. It's horrible. We're
It's
broken. We're
inconceivable.
broken people because of it.
But I highly recommend American Gods. It's only getting better, and from what I understand, they're not going to get too far in the actual book before the season's over.
That's what Neil Gaiman himself said on his
So,
Tumblr.
I mean, and they can expand it way beyond, and hopefully between seasons, hopefully I think he's hinted that he's working on a full sequel, because the way the book ends, he does 3 more stories with Shadow, taking place after the events of the book, and he's included it in his short stories, and they can do that, but I think he's working on a full-blown sequel
Oh.
to American Gods. I think that's what they said right before this came out, that he's working on a full-blown, full-book novel sequel to American Gods, which would be great.
Yeah.
If it came out between season 1 and season 2, that would be great filler for us, because you could break it up even more with, and that would help us get through
The year lull that's probably likely most probably likely.
I mean,
to
they're
happen.
probably gearing up, since it just got renewed, that probably the next month or 2, they're probably going to start filming season 2.
Or at least start writing the scripts.
Right. So, I mean, we still got a while, and then they got to film it, and we're already in May. So we're probably looking at, they would, kind of like what they did now, they probably won't film it until the fall. And then with the editing and stuff, they probably won't air it until now of next year. So, I mean, you're looking at another year at least. So that will conclude American Gods.
That concludes our discussion on American Gods for this week.
Okay, so continue to watch it. Kind of wanted to end on some different funnies, interesting things.
Really, what he wants to do is let you all hear what a big dork I am.
And also, I'm going to throw in my 2 cents as well. There's a game called Would You Rather. Now, we're not sponsored by Would You Rather. This isn't any
Well, I mean,
like,
and who hasn't played that from like time in memoriam?
and it's basically a what if scenario. And who hasn't done that?
Like, would you rather eat your boogers or have somebody pick your asshole every day? Like, I'd probably have somebody pick my asshole every day.
So I'm going to throw some questions. I'll answer them too. I'm not just going to throw them at Heather and then just say, I wouldn't do that. I'll give my answer as well. We went over some of these and we were talking about it and we just thought it was hilarious. So we're going to keep doing, we're going to try it out, see how we like it, and let us know what you think. We'll do one that we haven't read already. So,
Go.
Okay. Would you rather never use social media sites, apps again, or never watch another movie or TV show?
I can give up social media. Gone. Done.
Hashtag gone.
Hashtag Heather's done.
So I guess podcast wouldn't, we could still do the podcast,
Yeah, that's not social media.
but we're
Right.
using social media to promote it. So I would just have to do it.
Right.
And I would have to learn
and
Twitter.
I can still,
Oh God,
I
no.
can still watch all the TV shows.
Yeah. I think I would agree. I wouldn't give up movies or TV shows. I would give up Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Insta, Tumblr, Gram in a heartbeat. So that one wasn't too hard. Some of these are easy. Some of them are, it's kind of a hard, between a rock and a hard place. Here's another one. Would you rather have an easy job working for someone else or work for yourself, but the work would be incredibly hard? I guess it depends on the pay.
Absolutely. That would be the deciding factor.
Because you are a writer,
Yes.
and that is incredibly hard in some regards to get your name out and be a self-publisher.
H.D. Russell.
H.D.
At
Russell.
H.D. Russell 82 on Twitter.
You got your Twitter right. Okay. So that didn't pay too much yet. Hopefully the listeners
But
will.
you guys can help with that. You just go on Amazon and look up H.D. Russell.
I think it's based on pay. If it's easy and I get to work for someone else and
Right, if
I
I'm
make
making $6,000 a week, driving this Miss Daisy for 2 hours, like I'll do it.
now, if this turns into something, the podcast turns into something, and we make a lot of money, but it's incredibly hard work, I'm totally fine with quitting my other job and doing this as a
Right.
living, or anything for that matter. If it's something that pays off, that pays well enough, and then there is some
As long as
things
it's not stripping or prostitution, I wouldn't be very good at either one of those.
you got a bum shoulder,
Right, and I can't dance.
and it does kind of sound. We just said money is the reason why it's like, yeah, money.
Money.
And again, there are those people who just have, if it's your passion, you'll do it. And, we will do it,
Right.
but I can't give up,
I mean, we have families. We need money.
right.
It's that simple.
And there are those people, and God bless them, that take that leap of faith, but usually they don't have the family first.
Right.
And they've strived and they've worked hard and they've gotten what they needed, and then they include the family.
Yeah.
And again, that's not everybody, but yeah, we went with depends on the money. Would you rather be the first person to explore a planet or be the inventor of a drug that cures a deadly disease?
Planet. I would absolutely discover
You don't
planet.
you wouldn't want to cure like cancer or
No.
AIDS.
We
or-
have too many people on this planet.
So you would go the introvert route of I would do an total explore planet by myself.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Would you rather have a horrible? Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'll answer mine. I don't know. I would like to do the disease because you would be helping people.
Yeah, but
the greater
like,
good.
Then there's,
And heck,
there's so much that comes.
We'll go
into
back.
that.
We'll go back to the money. You could sell that
Yeah.
and be rich.
If you manage to survive, if Big Pharma doesn't get you.
So, Black Hawk choppers are landing on. Would you rather? Okay. Would you rather have a horrible short-term memory or a horrible long-term memory? You have that right now.
I was gonna say this is a non-starter for me. Like
Heather is
you
the
go
movie
ahead.
Memento.
Yeah, you go ahead and answer this one.
See, I don't know. That one's a hard one because would you rather have a horrible short-term memory, which means you don't really. I guess it depends your definition of horrible, because horrible implies that it's not like you can't form new short-term memories or long-term memories.
Right, you just can't remember
As
what you
well.
had for lunch yesterday.
So I think I would do the short-term memories because there's a lot of stuff that made me who I am in the long term. There is no right answer to these, by the way, but I think if I had better memory of stuff that I grew up with, that's what influenced me and became who I am. Obviously, there's some things that
Or maybe there's things that you've forgotten that influenced you. And maybe that's been the bigger influence. Don't get me started!
mind blown. I think I would just thinking about it. I would rather have my long-term memories than my short-term memories
I'd
as
like to
as
just
they
have
are now.
memories.
Do what?
It'd be nice just to have memories.
Just to have memories. Do you ever remember to forget? Would you rather? Okay, we'll do two more, and then I don't know if these are any good or not. Would you rather be completely invisible for one day or be able to fly for one day?
Fly.
Fly?
Fly. I mean, like, I'm sure if I were still a teenager, I would totes say invisible.
Invisible. Because there's not really much you could do invisible. I mean, you're invisible, but like if you coughed or if you
Yeah.
make a sound, people was like, "Who's that?" You know,
Yeah,
a ghost.
But if you fly, like, you could go.
But would you
anywhere.
regret? I mean, like I got to fly and now I can't. Would it be more, or is it worth it? I guess would be the answer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would totally agree with you. Fly. I was just playing devil's advocate. I would totally pick flying because invisible, like didn't have to see me for a day.
Right, and I can do that, like, all the time.
Yeah, you didn't get to see me for a day, which I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Would you, let's see, would you rather be poor but help people or become incredibly rich by hurting people?
I mean, what do you think my answer's going to be?
I don't know.
You're giving me way too much credit if you think I'm going to be poor.
So if it's like,
Because I'm
I'm
poor
gonna-
right now.
I'm going to say, so give you the scenario, I'm going to give you $1 million, but in that sense, I'm going to break that guy's arm.
Break his arm.
So you're going to get $1 million.
Sorry about you. I would press the button. You remember that movie? Where, like, if you press this button, you get this money, but
yes.
somebody dies?
Yes.
Like, I would press the button.
What was the conditions, though? Was it like you would ever know the person, or was there any conditions at all?
I don't know. I didn't
It's like
watch the
someone
movie.
you love dies if you push this
I
button,
don't think
or
it's
someone that
somebody
you never
love.
met.
I think it's someone you never met. But I think it all somehow circles back around. But I'm not positive on that because I only ever watched the trailer. Because I thought this movie would just piss me off.
Okay, I think that's okay. I think that's good.
That's enough insight into our greedy little personalities. And if you're picturing us with raccoon, eyes and moving our hands the way raccoons do, then you are picturing us correctly. Because
Excellent. Well, I don't know. I don't see myself as greedy, but I just answered the most greedy way on most of those. I don't know. I guess I am living the one poor and helping people. I mean,
you're already doing that.
I am doing that,
I'm
but
just
I don't
doing
know.
poor.
I don't know if I could get to the point where I'm like, yes, I will be rich if I could hurt people. And I guess depending on the hurt too, is it an emotional scar or a physical scar? Like if I break that person's arm, I'll pay for their medical bill because I'm rich now.
Right.
Or as opposed to I'm psychologically traumatizing them and they have PTSD. That's a
Yeah.
little bit different.
See, we put way too much thought into this. We are not.
No,
good
that's the
at
point.
this.
You're supposed to have thoughts in it and talk about the different way. There is no right answer. So,
See, I play it like a 10-year-old.
like,
Eat my boogers or pick my butt. I don't
your
know.
total ego, just
Yeah,
okay.
I'm all id. All id.
Okay, and on, yeah, sorry, total id. So, I guess we will leave you with the fact that we are very greedy and Heather wants to hurt people. That will do it for Reach the Masses podcast for this week. I'm Travis.
And I'm Heather.